It says recording in progress, so let's get recording in progress. This is a Podful of Saints Series 7, new series, because we're on the eve of cusp of a new season. So it's number 1 of a new series.
Hang on. What has happened in the last week that could possibly justify us doing a pod on a Wednesday afternoon?
I don't know, because it was so quiet, wasn't it? The club reset to silent. Suddenly, a few dissenting voices on the podcast, and we got bombarded with what can be generously called stuff.
And podcast. It'll never last.
Yeah, no. Right. Here we go then. We're talking about season tickets prices, I suspect, mostly. But we'll look at the fixture list and new signings, building by the day. Right. The general manager put out a statement saying there's going to be a slight increase in the cost of a season ticket. Could that be considered dishonest, that statement? Unfortunately, the club could have chosen a better phrase. Because last summer, you could have got an early bird season ticket. It would have cost you, what was it, 160 odd or whatever it was, or 250. And now the cheapest ticket you can get is £315, an increase of 38%. Aveley, who went down with us last season, have decreased their season ticket by 27%. So there should be a middle ground in there. Anyway, I'll pass it over to you two. I imagine supporters are delighted that this news. We paying extra to help out bid to get back into National League South.
I think Jacob should lead with this, considering. Well, no, hear me out, because obviously the trust have been quite proactive, surprisingly, in the last week or so. So it'd be really sort of good to see a reiteration from your good self about how the trust are handling it all and what they've got to say.
I mean, the trust put out a statement last week for me and Rogers, saying that we disagree with the statement. We made it clear to the club our position and what we feel that the prices should be. Clearly, the club didn't agree on that. So we've been, again, pushing to try and get things clarified for fans. And we've got a fans forum in a couple of weeks. But I think we can get to that in a minute.
Yeah, this rise. There was an early bird ticket last season, £250. You can't get it this year. The only price you can get is £315. Now, as we say, that's an increase of 38%. On the match day, it's even worse, because it's £10.87 it worked out per game last year. This year, because it's only 21 games, not 23, so it's £15, an increase of 40%, which I think is just on the upper edge of a slight increase myself. They're taking supporters for granted, aren't they, and taking them as idiots.
I don't think it's a matter of taking for idiots, but I think there's obviously an understanding that needs must, and they just assume that fans will roll over and have their tummies tickled. I think is absolutely scandalous. But the thing is, again, about the messaging, they've put out a message saying that the prices are going to go up a little bit, and then the next day the prices came out. And it almost seems as though the club are thinking on their feet with all of this. I genuinely don't believe they anticipated the level of fallout over this. And basically, they've shut themselves and have now sort of put out a subsequent statement about incentives with pre-season games and women's fixtures and youth fixtures. This was like, what, a week later? It does very much feel as though they're just sort of making this up as they're going along. And the fans are far from idiots. The fans are very, they're clocked on all of this. And they've taken to every forum possible to voice their displeasure.
Yeah, you've actually got to give a club credit, because they've done what a lot of clubs fail to do, and they've united their supporters. Unfortunately, all against the club, but they've united them. Jake, you said the trust suggested prices to a club. Have you got access to those figures?
Yes, it was between £12 and £15. So basically requested in line with the Isthmian League, where everyone else in the Isthmian League, or step 3, essentially. And that was the figure put forward a couple of weeks ago now. So, I mean, I even see, everyone's compared other clubs. Billericay have announced their prices. I mean, where did they finish last season, Dave? 2nd or 3rd? Playoff final? Their match day tickets are £13. Season ticket for an adult at the minute is £200. Just close to ours.
Very close, yes. The maximum price elsewhere, you touched on it there, is help I've got the right page up and have a look, is £15. We're charging £18. So what's that? 20% higher than the nearest clubs. The concession price, we got the highest on that, but we're actually level. Oh no, we are higher than everybody. I thought Folkestone
It's
and Victor they joined us. No, £12.50, that's the highest. And the season tickets, well, you got Whitehawk £199. The Hartford's a high one, £250, and there's us way out in front, and £315. Chucking in friendlies is totally meaningless.
Yeah, I think it does smack of the fact that there's people in charge who aren't really football people, maybe, and not making those decisions, or certainly not having the best interests of the community at heart. You know, people are on the forum, but I understand it's quite lively on there, Jake, shall we say, the quality of conversation. But there are people taking to Facebook and X and just saying that they cannot afford anymore to go to their own club. Generations of fans who are choosing not to come now, or selecting games when they can come. This isn't about really. This is about an affordability issue. Yes, St Albans is a very affluent area, but there's a large percentage of people who are still living, under the national wage and who are living on financial support. These are families who have been coming to Clarence Park over the last 4, 5, 6 years, even no longer able to go. And I think that's the issue there. This isn't our voices on here isn't reflective of us per se. It's reflective of those people who don't have a platform to say, hang on a minute, this is the difference. I noticed, I was listening with much joy last night, the Mix 92.6 local sports report with yourself, Jake, Aaron from the Trust, and Johnny Seabrick. Very interesting point that Johnny makes. He said, well, house prices are going up, bills are going up. Is this just the world we live in? Well, okay, well, let's put Johnny's mortgage up by 38% and see how chipper he is then, because I think it's a very, very lazy comparison. And Johnny's a fan of the club. He's a fan of the podcast. He's our friend. But I think, and I don't know whether he was trying too hard to approach a balanced view on all of this, boys, but he failed miserably. And then the point for me was when he tried to do a comparison between one of our co-owners, Lawrence Levy, and our MP, Daisy Cooper, which I thought was it was full on partridge. To all our overseas viewers, just go onto Google and just type in Alan Partridge. It's a thing to behold. Johnny did sort of turn into a paradox of himself last night, which is very unfortunate given the fact that he cares so much about the club. And the reiteration that's not quite getting through is that people of this district can no longer afford to go and watch St Albans City. That is disgraceful.
It's also not all St Albans City supporters live in St Albans.
Yeah.
Some have got to travel to games just to get to a home game, then get whacked with this. It's just nonsense. Well, you were on that show last night, Jake. Talk us through it.
Yes, it went on. Some of the questions were a bit of a surprise. Well, not a bit of a surprise, but I'd say things like that I didn't necessarily agree with. And I think those arguments don't really make sense to me, because we're talking about a football club here. We're talking about the pillar of the community. And that's what gets me, is that statement that we mentioned at the start of the show from Tony, saying that they were pleased to confirm that tickets were staying the same and all that, and talking about community, and that statement that went out, where we are, who we are, where we're going, going on for a month or so now. That talked about the club being the pillar of the community, the heart of St Albans City. And it has been at times. And I would say that's, the club made great progress in the last couple of years, didn't it? With attendances, with all the positivity around it, even with relegation, everyone that stuck with the football club and the team. And then to basically just throw it all in the bin and go, ta-da, £315. It is just unbelievable. And I think that's what gets me. Those sort of arguments, fine. But this is a football club we're talking about, a football club that's done a lot, football club that also owes supporters a lot after the last couple of seasons. And it is just not being reciprocated, is it? And unfortunately, we are the laughing stock of the community at the minute. We start laughing stock of non-league. But the community, look at the Hearts ad. What second top or most read article of the week was the one from Neil Metcalf about the price rise. Mix 90.26. Go on Facebook. All the comments that you see on all the local Facebook pages.
Hey, Jacob. Nothing says a community radio station like pandering to a couple of millionaires with an agenda, right? I mean, that doesn't happen enough in the world, right? So
no comment on that. But Dave, you said uniting the fan base. It is just across social media. Of course, it's only social media, but Facebook, Twitter, everything. And what is notable is it's not just fans who you might think, oh, they're quite vocal. It's fans who have been lifelong supporters. It's fans who have been volunteers. Fans who are still volunteers at the club.
Hemel fans have been getting
unfortunately, Hemel fans.
It's like
I've seen quite a lot of Hemel fans offering that you can come watch them. But it is that uniformed approach that is just really, really shocking. But it's not actually, is it, when you think about the price rise? And apart from one or two voices, of course, there's always going to be those that defend these decisions. Fair enough. Everyone's got an opinion. But the overall message from fans as a whole is basically, this is wrong. Stop. Apologise. Let's move on.
That dreadful statement that came out warning us of the advancing slight increase. It talked about national insurance contributions. Well, all clubs are faced with that, and yet others are still charging a damn sight less than we are. And the loss of National League income. Well, what we lose from National League is £20,000, which is for community projects anyway. It's not for the general running of a club. So that's a nonsense claim. It really is.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no way the fans should make up the shortfall of that. It's ridiculous. I mean, I said last week, and I say this again, I've got a lot of time for the owners, probably more than they think I do. But it's their role to manage the business in a way that every single time you need money, the first thing you do is go to the fans. You cannot do that. It is not sustainable. And this time, look, the thing with it, the decisions the club have made that fans have been generally unhappy with over the past, okay, fine. The shirt thing, you can choose to buy a shirt or not, the badge, fine. But this is a decision whether you go to the game or not now. This is a decision that something you've followed and lived for, or, for most of your leisurely life is to go to watch St Albans City. What the people in the boardroom now have got a bit too comfortable, and they've thought, yeah, we can do this because we want to reinvest back into, but you're pricing yourselves out of the market. You can see the rhetoric on all of the social media sites. As Jake said, this isn't just our fans. We are a genuine laughing stock, a topic of conversation across football, and not in a good way.
Of the 22 clubs in the Isthmian League Premier Division next season, it's only 6 I can't find a match day admission for so far. And the average price, including our one way out on top at £18, is £13.56. Take out £18 and it comes down. So £13.50, and we're charging 18 quid. The concession price, just over £9. Ours is £12.50. Everything about it is just not good.
No, and again, I think this feeds into the statement as well that said there wouldn't be an increase in tickets, but technically at the minute there is, because there's no early bird offer or advance offer, is there, available? This club said they were looking into it. But again, if you are managing your messaging about the situation and if you're presenting bad news, you have to be frank with fans straight up and reveal it there and then, whatever is going on. And I think, again, supporters are just thinking, what the heck? I would say, if I was a supporter, buying a ticket last season for most games in advance, £16.50 night before, whatever it was, fine. Suddenly I'm looking at £18 and going, where's that come from? Sure, they might have that as a ticketing system in place by then, but unfortunately it's not guaranteed now, is it? So that's all fans can go off of.
I agree with what Lee said earlier. In response to the criticism...
Yes.
6 months ago it was, Lee.
Sorry.
The club got a lot of stick for not keeping supporters informed from the end of the season till about last week or whatever it was. And I agree. I think they rushed to put these things out and haven't thought them through properly. Surely they knew the number of games we've got next season at home are 21 in the league compared to 23 in the past. And the statement they put out just doesn't seem to acknowledge that.
It's a shame. And I took to social media last week, and I'm still relatively angry about it, to be honest with you. But I did mention that those at the top who have their feet under the boardroom table, they do lack empathy, intellect, and class about this whole situation, Dave. It just seems, I don't know why they don't release all the information so we can make a quicker, better educated decision on what the club is trying to do. And I think the fluff incentives that they released yesterday, I think that is just pure panic about the fallout of this whole fiasco. The problem I've got is I don't genuinely believe they can have 1,000 people all, just convene upon the clubhouse for the fans forum, air their disgust, and they're so egotistical and so blinkered, it won't make a difference ever, and they won't even contemplate. It's not even a backtrack. If you listen to the fans, it's a sign of strength on your behalf in terms of the fan, in terms of the board. Just do the right thing. This isn't. It is a business, but it's a business that involves people and their passion about supporting a local football club. This is generational fans who want to come and watch your product, an inferior product, officially, by the way, that you're now charging more for. So that's just wrong anyway. And they're going to come out and they're going to say, well, if John and I pull out, then the club. Well, look, that cannot be your go-to every single time you get challenged or confronted about something. If your heart's not in it, then leave. Very much similar to players. If you don't want to be part of this football club, then leave. You cannot go to the fans and make suggestions that if you were to leave, the club's just going to go bang. That does no one any good at all. Listen to the fans. They are the heartbeat. Success will come because of the fans, not in spite of them. And ultimately, the fans have a voice now. They've risen up, they've aired their views, and the club do have to react.
If they do see sense and put the prices to somewhere closer to where they should be, they won't put them down to where they really should be. We know that. It's almost like a Trumpism. You announce something absolutely outrageous, and 2 days later, you backtrack on it, but the new price you set, or tariffs if you want to take a look at it, it's higher than it was originally, but it's not what it was. So you're not as badly off as you were going to be. And it can almost be a stake like that. But they will lose face backing down. They will lose face if they don't back down. They put themselves in a terrible position.
But they will gain fans, Tabs, surely.
May do. They will have lost some already because of their incompetence. They've lost the goodwill of some supporters already, I'm sure. You're probably right, Lee. Some will then say, OK, we'll give it another try. And the football had better be better than it was last season, which was absolutely dire, regardless of the price.
And it's not like this is the first time this has happened, is it? In recent memory. I mean,
unfortunately not.
I mean, Lee, 2019? We had a very similar situation, didn't we? And that led to fans boycotting. And I think it's fair to say that home crowds dropped that season, didn't they? Fairly, maybe not significantly, by a decent amount, didn't they? And that all ended up being very acrimonious, unfortunately. But even now, I think the reaction across social media compared to then is even wider than I expected. And again, even newer fans, all these fans that have recently started supporting the Saints, I think everyone is just so shocked, aren't they? But one supporter said to me, again, he's very quiet and doesn't normally try and get involved with these sort of things and generally errs on the side of the club, said to me, where is the corporate memory? This has happened not long ago. How this happen? Let this happen again in similar circumstances when it could have been so easily avoided. I just can't believe it. And I don't think most fans can believe it, to be honest.
You're dead right, Jake, but it's also not only the second time that they've done this. You go back to our Southern League days, about 2012, was it? Just been relegated. And in halfway through the next season, was it? Prices went up mid-season. Oh, hang on, someone's trying to call. I'll have to get rid of that. I'll get rid of it. They certainly have got a history of doing this. And, well,
they've got a history because they've got away with it up until this point. I think what needs to happen now for those who are genuinely disgruntled, and there seems to be, we're not sort of talking about the dozens or the hundreds. There's a considerable number here who this affects. I think the best wish in the world, you know, I would want them just to look at themselves in the mirror and say to themselves, is this the best for the club? You know, because they've got plans of grandeur. You know, Jake, we went to that Chiswell Green meeting where the owners were there, and they outlaid some plans for a 6,000-seater stadium. And one of the co-owners used the word community, you know, like it was like it was every other word. And there's no bigger person about community than I. But I think that when you preach about the importance of community and a cornerstone of what a football club can be to its district, and then you go and pull a stunt like this, I think it's very bad taste, it's ill-informed, and it's hugely unnecessary. They need to look at themselves now, go back to a palatable conclusion in all of the pricing. The way you make more money is getting more fans in. Pricing yourself out of the market for a load of die-hard generational fans isn't the way forward.
The funny thing is, last few seasons, the crowds have grown to a level us three have never previously witnessed. You can go back decades to the last time we had crowds similar to this. And a lot of people have said, the regular supporters, well, these new people, they're coming. They're not that interested in the football. It's a social event, chance to meet up with some friends, their kids to play, running around and whatnot. Go and have some food. The parents can have something to drink. And the football is almost incidental. So if a match day admission stays the same as last season, which it has, apart from the reduced price up until now before kickoff or whatever, is it going to affect those people?
I mean, potentially. I mean, it comes back to the whole can they afford it debate. I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to say. I think with those sort of things, I think there is going to be impact this season, at the start of the season, whatever it is, because of the wide reaction of supporters. And what is notable is it's not going away, is it, Lee? From what we've seen on social media, you mentioned that Saint Saver thing they posted on Monday night, which I'll be honest, the immediate reaction I had from most fans was, well, not from most fans, from some people that are involved in the club in some ways, you know, saying, well, this is just going to wind up supporters even more, isn't it? Why are they announcing this? Why are they wording it like this? Why are they doing this? You know, and that impact is going to continue over the next few months, and come early August, which worryingly is not actually that far away already, is it? You know, there is going to be an impact on fans from a wide branch of everywhere, to be honest, and be interested to see come then. But I think there's still a lot of water to flow under the bridge before then to see where we're at as a supporter base and as a club come the second or third week of August.
The one thing I would say as well, the good news is that all of the commentary is available on Mix 92.6. Ding! For those who don't want to attend any of the games. But you're absolutely spot on. This isn't going away anytime soon. And the fans forum is going to be very, very interesting. Tabs, I know you don't like to sort of attend these sorts of things, but I think it would be beneficial just to get some context as well. Look, it's Jake says there, it's whether they can afford it. People in St Albans, if they wanted to, I guess, like the families that you're referring to, you know, your 2.4 kids, if they want to come, they'll come, right? But it's not them we're referring to. It's the people who aren't as financially better off than those, and they're struggling. You know, that there was that one post, the screenshot you sent me, and it was last year I paid 200, and now it's like, you know, 65 quid more. And he said, if I pay 65 quid more for everything in my life, I'd be bankrupt. You know, and it's just not. Listen, club, listen to what the people are saying. You know, take the moral high ground in all of this. Just admit you're wrong, okay? And then people won't rub it in your faces. People will applaud you, and they'll say thank you to you for doing the right thing. You know, but I tell you what, if you continue down this train of thought, pretty much the people that make this decision, you're going to get what's coming to you.
Who on earth is really writing these press releases, or whatever you want to call them? Because they are terrible. They are just, as you both mentioned already, they're just winding up supporters even more. And then coming out with his stupid thing like we're going to chuck in the 4 home friendlies. Well, supporters don't like friendlies. It is just nonsense. The PR side of the club last year, we mentioned it again and again for the Twitter, the lack of information on the podcast, on the podcast, good to do that.
Hey.
The website, on the website was shocking. Well, podcast, the only place you get information. And it doesn't look like
actually, it's all right though, isn't it? But the thing is, you sorry to interrupt us, but people look to the podcast for that level of engagement with the club, and that shouldn't be the way.
No, and I was going to say the club is showing no signs of improving its output from what we're seeing this summer. And if anything, they've managed to make it even worse. Ill-informed would be a polite way of putting it all. Anyway, any more on ticket prices, or should we move on to our other happy bits?
Oh God, what I will say as well. We talk about the cost and everything. There's a lot of fans I know, fans I speak to, who this last week has been extremely stressful, hard work. People are losing sleep over these issues, either because of the financial issues or because of the stress and concern of it all. And people might think that's an overreaction, but that's genuinely true. We know fans, Lee, that have put in a lot of time in the last week or so trying to get things moving, trying to get things sorted, trying to or even if they're just panicking about the situation, understandably, so this is not just a financial impact. This is a physical and emotional impact on supporters. And I think, again, that is something that is not considered, because it's not like I know we've got a big fan base, but it's not like every fan base is a new young hipster like Owen. Hello, Owen. There is so many people that have been supporting the club for so many years, like Dave, who stand in the cola. It is hard work for them, and this is a big shock, and it is going to be a difficult couple of months coming up.
I would tell you a story that I wasn't going to, because it wasn't. It might sound crass, but it wasn't. It's not meant to be like this. But there's a dad that I speak to. He's got 2 kids, right, and it's just that case. I mean, they were seriously contemplating not going away this summer because the kids love going down to Clarence Park so much. But obviously, it's not so much that he's got to pay the extra 65 quid. Timing wise, and we come back to this, they've launched a new kit, and they know that his 2 kids are going to want the new kit. So on top of the increase in his costs, the kids are going to want, obviously you don't have to buy the kids the new kit, but that's part of the experience. And this, he said, it would have been more palatable for him if the prices were to stay the same or ideally be lowered. Then he can look at getting the kids the new kit, because you can't just buy one kid a kit and not the other. And you're talking about people are trying to balance the books, because St Albans City, and Jake, you will know the work that Stand By Your Saints did in the community, 6-7 years ago. St Albans City is the only leisurely outlet that some people have in their lives. And it's absolutely vital for their mental well-being to turn up on a match day, see friendly faces, let off some steam, talk to people. It's their only social interaction for the entire week. And now the club, for the sake of a few quid, that they think they're doing the good thing, is sort of taking that away from people. And that alone should be addressed and looked at. I'm not saying that, look, it's an expensive thing to own and run a football club. No one is doubting the money that has been put in up to this point. But the club the fans also put in a hell of a lot of money. So, and as you say, Tabs, the gates have been growing and growing and growing. And yet somehow the club felt it right and just to increase the cost of watching this for an inferior product. Something isn't right. People's decisions need to be looked at, and they need to get a grip and just not even backtrack, just do the right thing.
Well, the club's biggest sponsors are its supporters, simply. Just look at the match day income, times that over the whole year, and we are the club's biggest sponsors, and they've treated us with utter contempt, which is not acceptable. You mentioned earlier about balancing the books. The club doesn't produce a profit and loss account. It doesn't have to by law, so make that clear. But you look at the Company's House, and for the season before last, it looks like we lost 220,000. You look at the figures the clubs come up with, the season ticket prices and match day prices this season. It looks like the club may have lost a lot of money again last season, and they're trying to stem it by keeping the prices high. But how on these gates can we be losing that sort of money? Is it mismanagement or is it not? Is it just they want to get in as much money they can for whatever reason? They got to start paying off a loan they had from the Sports Council pretty soon, haven't they? A year or two's time. So maybe they're getting money in for that. It just none of it makes sense. So if they are losing money, come clean, tell us why, where you are losing it. Is it it's certainly not on the budget on the pitch because we're not one of the top payers. So is it money that's being spent on staff off the pitch, which should be down on what it was a couple of years ago because quite a few of them quit, although a few places have been refilled, but not all the full-time staff. So the losses should not be as they were.
No, mismanagement is high on the agenda on some of the WhatsApp chats that we're part of, Jake, and it's just they're not entirely sure, the fans that we talk to, how the club have got themselves into this position. If it's a financial thing and they're losing so much money, then you've got to start looking for outside investment. You know, the fans shouldn't have the brunt of all the shortfall financially because we put in enough in. We travel up and down the country to support the team. What then? If they get away with this season and we get promoted, say, then what? It goes up. You know, where is the stopping point now? Because the fans' money sort of takes so much, and this isn't the fans, as Jake alluded to the first time around, that were threatening to boycott. These are volunteers for the club who aren't in acceptance with what's happened. You know, these are diehard fans who were quite staunch about and defended the club to the hilt on previous decisions that they've made. Even they now are scratching their heads in total disbelief about what is coming out of the club. And it's evident the club are struggling to contain this in a positive way. And I think the longer they go along with their heads in the sand, the worse it's going to be for them. I think the fans forum, again, is going to be very interesting. I strongly urge that if you want to say in any of this fiasco, do come down. Your voice matters. Your voice should count. If you're paying money to support this club, your voice should count 100%. So please do come down to the fans forum next week after. Week after. Thank you, Jake. And again, show solidarity with those who are struggling to make the impact on the owners.
With that meeting with supporters and a couple of supporters groups calling for it, and so we've got one. You really do need somebody from the club there to answer questions because the club know the supporters are thoroughly cheesed off with what they've done and now hold them in contempt. Someone from the club has got to justify it or at least listen to it and answer questions. If a club hides itself away from that meeting, that's not good either.
I think plan is that there will be representatives of the club there, but details are just being confirmed, but that should be okay. From the trust perspective, put my little trust hat on. Fans forum 19th of June in the clubhouse at 7:30, like Lee said. That's a Thursday, free entry, of course. So come along, get down there. And also, if you're interested in all this as well, why not sign up for the trust as well? We've got the online form on the social medias. We're trying to get the trust really pushing now, trying to get it going again, really, really firm, really hard, trying to represent the fans. Find the form on the trust social medias, and also if you come to the fans forum, there'll be QR codes and stuff about how to join. It's a really low fee. It's definitely worth it. But I agree, Dave, that 100% club needs representation there, and hopefully they will be there because there's a lot of questions that need answering. And you know, and that fans forum, Lee, you talked about that Chiswell Green meeting earlier.
Beautiful.
You know, great, brilliant. But when was the last time that supporters heard directly from the owners of the football club? It's been a while now, hasn't it?
But you're saying that as though we're surprised by any of all this. Yeah. You know, I'm really trying to rein myself in lumping onto the owners because it's a very easy thing to do. And although the decision ultimately sits with them, there's other people, other voices in that boardroom who are part of the decision-making process. So we have to look at those. Yeah, I mean, look, the club has gone about this all the wrong way. Shock horror. But again, they are merely custodians of the club. And Tabs, okay, yeah, the fans are the club's biggest sponsors, but the fans are an absolute in all of this. The fans will always be there. There won't always be the money meant, and the club might not play at a level of like we are now. We might go higher, might go lower, but the club is there, and the fans will be there. But at this point, it looks as though there'll be fans not in the ground. They'll be supporting from afar because of this latest decision from those making the point.
Something we haven't even mentioned as well as away supporters this season as well.
Yeah.
That I suspect there'll be an impact on that. There was the last time this happened. There'll be a massive impact on that. And I suspect there'll also be an impact for home and away in terms of expenditure in the ground as well. Because we know there's a few clubs in our division who have quite strong supporter base, and they'll certainly get the word out there about don't be spending this money at Clarence Park, don't even go to Clarence Park, whatever it is. I think that's another thing that we haven't thought about really at all. But away supporters this season, they will be dreading coming to Clarence Park as well, won't they? Because of the cost.
You mentioned the uproar last time the club did something like this, and one or two supporters then actually took the opposite view. Instead of boycotting away games, they boycotted the home games. It wasn't a large number because we didn't have such a large fan base then, but it was significant. And, you just wonder if they'd do it again just to kick the club in the teeth. Well, you brought it on yourselves. We're just going to go to the away games. It means they got the expenses of travelling, which is far less than it was in National League South. I can see that happening. Some clubs, some supporters will go down that route.
Well, 100%. And Jake and I actually know of someone who has already said that. They said they're only going to go to away games. But that's what it's come to. Someone has made the decision that this is the price we're going to charge to watch St Albans City in the Isthmian League. And people then have made the decision, well, I'm not going to stand for that. I'd rather give my money to the opposition. I would rather do that than give it to the club. And it's detrimental to the club. I think the one thing that the club don't really comprehend at the minute is just how other clubs are perceiving us. It's absolute. Trust me when I say that it's not a good look. And when you're trying to build a reputation about community and you want people on your side to maybe steer through a ground, or in terms of footballing terms, you want to build up relationships with other clubs, they're going to look at this in not a favourable light. And I think that, as Jake said, this could have been prevented, but even more important now is that it can be changed.
I think certain people at the top end of the club, you can call them the owners if you want, don't want their names associated with a relegation. And they have not mentioned it. The chairman hasn't mentioned it at all and come out and should have come out and rallied the fans and been blunt with it straight away, admitting their errors in causing the relegation. But no, they don't want their names associated to it. So he's not said a word about it at all. And that sort of thing, again, doesn't go down well with fans. It just shows you're not a part of them. You are totally something different, way out of the picture. Anyway, there we go. Can we move on from that?
Please.
Right, well, the fixture list. They produced this stupid screenshot of a calendar at an angle. And that is a fixture list of the friendlies. Why can't we have a proper list that shows if they're home and away and whatnot, and a proper list?
It's called creative license, David. Here we go.
It's childish nonsense. You just do it in a simple list that people can read. I mean, a 5-year-old with a John Ball printing set could come up with something more legible. As for the games, it's difficult to get really good games now because the pro clubs are very reluctant to put their top teams out, first teams out. So, which is why our home main ones are against under 21 sides. For whatever you say, I'll let you two discuss those 6 games that are coming up.
Thanks, Dave. I think there is an actual full list now, isn't there, on the club website?
At last.
But apparently they're a little bit slightly different to the graphics, potentially, from what I've read elsewhere. So
good start.
I'm not really. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure. But
do you reckon we'll have an off season where nothing happens? It's just boring, mundane, and we get like 3 months off where we're not having to sort of criticise the club in any way, shape, or form, and that the club aren't self-imploding with a myriad of ridiculous decisions made by people who obviously don't know football, or indeed the fans.
It's funny you say that, Jake, about amending the fixture list, because of course we matched our admission price back onto this. They announced at 10 o'clock in the morning about £18.50, wasn't it? By early afternoon, it got down to 18 quid. It should be down to
Yes.
about £1 by now.
Yeah, yes. I don't know if the prices have been announced for these friendlies, have they? Which is again part of the whole sake saver thing. Fans actually don't know. Anyway, in terms of the fixtures, I mean, Lee, we all thought we'd have a season without going to Maidstone, but we're going there for literally first City game of the summer.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be.
Who on earth arranged that game? Ridiculous. Not appealing to supporters of either club. Give me a great long journey like that for a friendly. Do me a favour.
And then you've got
Really
Arsenal, Arsenal and Luton under 21s, which is, probably out of the games, they're probably the most appealing, aren't they, for the more casual fans? It's fair to say under 21 games could get a decent crowd, depending on the ticket prices. And then Wildstone at home, that is glamorous. And then have we got Ebbsfleet and Real Bedford away? Is this how I'm looking at the fixture list? I don't know.
Ebbsfleet's at home, isn't it? I think, isn't it? That was a yellow one on that stupid calendar thing.
I'm genuinely not sure. I'm going to have to quickly check.
You're not sure? You should work for the club, mate.
Oh, there you go. No, Ebbsfleet is at home. Yeah, Ebbsfleet's at home Wednesday the 30th. So there you go. And then Real Bedford away.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a Wednesday, isn't it?
There you go. Gotta presume you're busy, Dave.
Hope so.
But in terms of actual competitive games, I mean, there's nothing that really stands out there, is it? It's more about game time. I will say, though, a couple of comments I've seen from fans are worried about it's not a lot of games, similar to last summer. How the squad, did it really get going? Did it have enough game time? So I've seen that from a couple of fans, interestingly. But otherwise, it's just a normal mix of summer fixtures, really, now, isn't it?
Right, early last season, the National League South manager said to me, we didn't have enough friendlies, so we were undercooked at the start of the season. I take a slightly different view. 6 games should be enough. I can understand the view people don't think it's enough. Our problem last season was the manager and the tactics. Nothing to do with number of games. The tactics were totally wrong because it wouldn't have changed the way we played. So this season, it'd be interesting to see how we play. If we do look like a side, because we didn't look like a side pre-season last year.
No, you're right, and you can probably guarantee as well there's going to be a couple of behind closed doors friendlies arranged as well by Culverhouse and Bazza. So although it's 6 in front of fans, there'll be at least 2, maybe possibly 3 behind closed doors. So it's not as though the players are going to go without getting a good shift in. That said, we've only got 6 or 7 players anyway, so it might be a bit tougher than they first thought. But again, let's see how we get on. To be honest with you, the pre-season friendlies are so far down my list of in terms of what this club is all about at the minute. But yeah, once the season comes, I'm sure we'll have a great time.
You're looking forward to them, Jake, whoever it is we're playing and whenever and wherever?
Yeah, I've already got my Saint saver for them, so I'm all good. No, genuinely, right. Yeah, they're fine. Is what it is.
Right. The next thing is the signings. We've lost 17 players, an unprecedented number in our history. And the signings that are coming in: Scott Riley from Dulwich Hamlet, Leo Serry from Hendon, Troy Perez-Dua from Northwood. 2 are involved in a relegation battle. 1 was relegated. And we're talking to a player, I believe, so I've been told, outside the club, it must be said, to an Enfield Town player. Made 4 starts last season, substituted each time, 15 sub-appearances, and didn't play in any of their final 12 games. As a former player, sent me a message last night, who is behind the recruiting? We look at that photo in Culverhouse with people in their boardroom the other week, and the reset, well, it didn't kick in. It was pretty much as ones that were involved last year. And you're thinking, these signings, have any of them got Ian Culverhouse's fingerprints on them?
This is a very dodgy path to go down after 15 minutes of hammering with the club. I don't know. All I would say is that I have faith in Ian Culverhouse and Paul Bastock getting the best out of the squad that is assembled, whether it be the squad that's assembled on their behalf or whether they've got any input into it at all. I don't know. The signings don't exactly strike me with the greatest deal of confidence. But then again, I think I'm probably looking ahead of the players we've signed when we were in the National League South. I think the level of players now that we're having to attract is unfortunately the sort of caliber which we're not entirely used to. So we'll have to sort of try and see where we are with those. You'd like to think, I mean, James Sweet re-signing is good, very good. He's a very useful defender and can play in a a lot of positions. You've got to look at it at face value. We don't know what the budget is, do we? But you've got to try and attract. You still think that despite our relegation, St Albans City is very an attractive club for some players. And I think this always happens, Tabs, doesn't it? The later on in the pre-season we go, good players don't get picked up by clubs, or they're out of favour, or they can't agree contract deals with whatever club. And then there is an opportunity there, like with Sweet, where we can pick up some really, really good players later on. But then again, they lose out on all the preparation time that the rest of the team have had up until that point. So the squad is the squad, mate, and we need to have some more players as well before the pre-season starts, obviously.
Well, you mentioned the budget. When I met up with Tony Gotever, general manager, he was against reducing the budget from last season, possibly even increasing it to make sure we challenge for promotion. And from what I've heard, not from the club, Zane Bantam has made simply an offer he couldn't refuse. And also he has got loyalty to the club, so which he certainly has, which is great to see. David Longking, he was on a good wage. From what I've been told, we at least matched it in his new offer, if not increased it slightly, but we couldn't match what Chelmsford City offered him. And so you can understand him going there, higher level, higher money. It's not that big a difficult decision for him to make. So those sort of things suggest we are going to pay decent wages to try and get better players. But you look at the signings we got so far, and you don't want to put the poor lads down. Scott Riley, I've been told he's a decent player.
Yeah.
The others I know nothing about. You don't want to put them down, but none of them inspire you with confidence that we are building a side that's immediately going to challenge for return to National League South. Or am I reading it wrong? What do you reckon, Jake?
No, I think that's a fair point, and it's a comment I've seen from a lot of fans, and I think that's actually part of contribution why fans have been so annoyed this summer as well, because we announce amazing ticket prices and then sign players that don't necessarily on paper look like they're amazing signings. But what I will say, go back 12 months ago, and Lee, you said full circle. 12 months ago, we were signing all these biggish names, weren't we, about the from the National League South, and saying, this looks like a decent signing, this looks like a decent signing, this could all work. We're going to be cooking here, we're going to be top 7, top 6, whatever. Didn't really work, did it? So I don't mind us taking a punt on some of these players. I think keeping Zane Bantam's great. James Sweet, I suspect we've made him a very good offer as well, and we know that was certainly gaining interest from other clubs. So some of those players there, but then it's just the likes of your Alex Wall, your Kieran Gauthier. We've literally just announced Nick Ralph as we record. So those sort of signings, of course, they're probably going to be squad players, aren't they? Or whatever they're going to be. And I suspect there's going to be a few more bigger names coming in. But what I would like to see is a bit more pedigree and experience at the Isthmian level. I like Riley Scott. From what I've heard, he could be a decent signing. He had people who liked him at Dulwich, but I'd like to see a few more of those lads who know how to play in this division. And I wouldn't mind a couple of players that are clearly Ian Culverhouse and Baz's signings. I would like to see some players that have their fingerprints all over them in terms of signings because they know what they're getting from them. Whereas, as you say, so far, it looks like a fairly mixed approach of players that maybe are coming from the scouting network potentially. But I don't want to, disregard these players totally. It's the first week of June. I have confidence that these lads are going to be good. It's just we don't know much about them at the minute anyway.
Alex Wall is an interesting one. Back with us, obviously joined us towards the end of last season. Big surprise he came in the first place and he's staying with us this season. I was sent a message from a former player a few weeks ago that Alex was actually acting as a consultant to attract players to the club. And you've got to congratulate him. The first player he attracted to the club was Alex Wall. I mean, that's a magnificent achievement. You got that signing out of the way.
He's on commission, Director, or what?
Got to be, isn't he? Other ones, I don't know. We hope it works for them. I hope it works for those players we brought in. But you've not got... it's difficult to really be enthusiastic about it from what we've seen from these signings. And we've got a new commercial manager as well.
Is it Alex Wall?
It might as well be.
No.
No, Harry. Sorry, Harry, I've forgotten your surname. But you two would have seen it. Any comments on that? The club said they were going to appoint one, and a couple of months later, we got one.
Yeah, it's, well, probably needed, isn't it? But unfortunately, timing. Unfortunately, all the comments under it were as you'd expect after the news in the first week or so. So I'm sure Harry will do an excellent job, but I do feel sorry for him with the timing of that announcement in social media. So I think the squad wise, I think we'll have a much better idea probably in a month just before pre-season starts, won't we? And you just wonder now from the youngsters that have signed whether that'll be the last of it now. I mean, Jack James is still, we don't know what's going on with him, but now are we going to see some more bigger names potentially or whatever it is coming into the club? Hopefully, because I think if the club does want to start turning this summer around, I think there needs to be some decent signings as well on the pitch if they want to try and create any sort of positivity at the minute.
Even if they do get some players that we see as decent to get us challenging in National League, not National itself, in the Isthmian League Premier Division, they still don't justify the prices that the club have issued.
No.
And the club have got to be made fully aware of that.
I think definitely. Sorry, Lee, I was just going to say, because you look at the players that Billericay are signing, they are signing National League South players in some instances, and their tickets are £13 a game, £200 for a season ticket for an adult. That is the sort of level, like say, Dave, that shouldn't equate to that really. So I'm glad you said that. Sorry, Lee.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, if the club are sort of hinging their bets on the fact that they can try and sign some established players, and that might soften the blow of the price hike. It won't. It will not. Because it's gone past that stage now. And the fact that the club have been so blasé about it and blinkered about the decision that they've done. I know I'm harping back to the ticket prices, but it's that important to so many different people that it needs to be addressed at every single, merit. The fact of the matter is, boys, is that the players, I'm glad the budget is competitive and it's up to Ian and Paul Bastock now to sit there and assemble a competitive squad. But ultimately, we've got to hit the ground running because you've got the ticket price thing going on. You've got fans who aren't going to be at the games, and then add on to that the squad aren't performing. And then you've just got, we've seen last season that can snowball rapidly. And once you get into that rut, it's very hard to get out of.
It's interesting, again, that with the whoever is making the signings, I've heard so many criticisms from people about the signings last season and the people who are involved in that. And yet most of them seem to have survived unscathed. They're still at the club. They won't be given a second season to get away with it, will they? Surely, if we make a bad start, you look at them and say, well, you've done it again. So let's hope that's not the case.
Yeah, indeed. And I will say, I do feel for Ian Culverhouse and Paul Bastock. The fans got behind them at the end of last season. I think most fans wanted them to stay. Paul Bastock is a legend at St Albans City Football Club. This is the infuriating thing. The fans want to be at the game supporting this management team and this squad. But unfortunately, ticket pricing is, a huge issue at the minute. But fans want to be behind the management at the minute. And it feels like for a lot of fans, they can't really. So I do feel for them. And, we talk about these signings, but I think give the management a bit of time and see what things are looking like in a couple of weeks, in a month or so.
There we go. Are we done? Any other business?
We've got to be done because Tracy's got to get back to work. So,
Yes.
Well, I think we've covered enough, haven't we? Just about.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Podful of Saints on Twitter. Email description below. We don't know exactly when we'll be next back because whatever gets announced first. And then of course there'll be the fans forum. So again, get down to the fans forum. Whether you come to 5 games a season, go to 25 games a season, 35 games a season, get down there. And even if you don't want to speak, that's absolutely fine. Just get down there and hear what is going on. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. And we'll speak to you all again next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye.